welcome to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times. I'm Caitlin, Editorial Assistant and Digital Campaigns Executive. This is our third special episode in the run-up to the Emergency Services show, where we'll be picking out the sessions and conversations you won't want to miss when everyone comes together this September. This series is sponsored by MSA Safety, who will be exhibiting at the show. Today we're highlighting sessions from our Protecting the Protectors stage, which is returning this year with sessions on a wide range of topics, including PPE, resilience and public disorder. Keep listening to hear my conversation with Natalie Wilson and Alan Murray from the British Safety Industry Federation, covering everything from PPE procurement and standards to inclusive sizing. Next, Amanda Coleman joins me to talk about the emergency alert test and the 30 Days, 30 Ways campaign, and we discuss the importance of clear and ethical communication with the public during critical incidents, a topic Amanda will be expanding on at the show. But first up, I chatted with Luke Gazzard, Acting CFO of Avon Fire and Rescue, about how fire leaders can embed safer practices around contaminants, a topic that's becoming increasingly important across the service. So as you gear up for the Emergency Services Show 2025, stick around. We've got interviews, expert insights, and a sneak peek at the Protecting the Protectors stage sessions you won't want to miss. Hi Luke, it's great to have you on the podcast with us today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
To start with, could you talk me through what the sessions you're chairing at the show will be focusing on?
Yeah, so my role predominantly within the NFCC is to lead the National Contaminants Project on behalf of the NFCC. So I'm an Assistant Chief Fire Officer in Avon Fire and Rescue, and this is an additional bolt on to my role. So it was a really exciting role, and we've been invited into this show to talk about contaminants, discuss our journey within the NFCC about how we're going around delivering products. We've got 9 different work packages, and we felt this was a really, really good opportunity for us to come and highlight some of the work we're doing and some of the progress we want to make to help firefighters across the UK be healthier and safer in their everyday lives.
Brilliant. And the sessions you've referred to move from international best practice into more practical day-to-day actions. What do you hope that attendees to those talks will take away from the discussions?
We've got a number of different sessions being held on the day. I think we've made up a really strong network of connections across the globe, actually. One of those connections we have is with the Chief Fire Officer of the Swedish Fire and Rescue Service over in Stockholm. Arguably, they're further ahead in their journey on contaminants, and they understand it a little bit better in how they've developed their own practices. So globally, and what we're looking at is to try to learn from others around this as well, but also put our own spin on it, because in the UK, at times we do have some different practices to what they have in the rest of the world. So we can learn from others, but we also want to develop our own practices to make sure our firefighters are staying as safe as possible. By inviting the Chief Officer of Stockholm Fire Service over, we feel he can share his journey on contaminants and how they've minimised the risk in terms of cancer for their firefighters. And I think that's going to be a really good session for people to understand their journey and then see how we can perhaps adopt and adapt some of their methods and bring it into the UK as well.
And what role do you see for fire and rescue service leadership in the UK in embedding safer practices when it comes to contaminant exposure?
I think this is about leadership across the whole of every single organisation. So as a strategic leader, I need to play a key part in making sure we have the correct policies, resources, PPE, equipment in place for firefighters to be able to understand the risk and be as safe as possible. And then we've got every leader in between. So if we look at a level 1 commander on the incident ground, let's just give an example of that initial crew manager who may turn up at an incident where firefighters are going to be contaminated through fire gases and toxins. They need to demonstrate an amount of leadership to understand what the risk is, how they can manage it, and how they can keep their firefighters safe. And it's every manager in between that. So strategically, we need to make sure we've got policies, practices in place. Our property and our estates are designed so that when they come back to station, they can then manage that in a reasonable way, slightly different to maybe what they're doing it now. Learning and development is a key part. So our learning and development departments around the UK, we're trying to create a national suite of documents within the NFCC that we can deliver so every service can come in to the NFTC portal, have a look at the learning resources we've got, and then push that across their own organisations. Their own leaders can then deliver that across the service. So I think we've all got a responsibility here. It's not just down to a group of individuals. This is a whole service, whole sector-led product that we want to deliver.
You can catch more expert lived-out insights from Luke at his sessions at the show, the Swedish perspective on contaminants, the clean vehicle concept, and managing the risk from contaminants, all on the afternoon of day one. Next up, we're turning the spotlight on TechSport, proud sponsors of the Protecting the Protectors stage. TechSport is a 100% family-run company based in Salzburg. Founded in 1992 by Ottmar Schneider in his garage, the company is now jointly managed by him and his daughter Nicole Heinemann, continuing to lead the way in high-tech, premium protective clothing for firefighters. Their range covers everything from fire-resistant clothing for indoor attacks to lightweight kit for forest firefighting and technical assistance, along with essential accessories like fire protection hoods and belt systems. Every garment is designed in-house with the highest quality materials and features, keeping frontline crews safe, comfortable, and performing at their best. All TechSport products are made exclusively in Europe, which means they can maintain top quality standards while producing everything from small bespoke orders to thousands of pieces for large-scale deployments. Thanks to its extensive network of distributors and partners, customers around the world benefit each year from TechSport's commitment to protection and safety. At the show, you can hear from Simon Hunter and Tim White. Tim White is a veteran of the fire industry with more than 35 years' experience, 25 of which have been focused specifically on firefighter PPE. He's a long-standing member of the FIA-FRES Council and the PH14 Committee, which oversees EN 469 standards for firefighter protective clothing, and now works in global PPE sales with TechSport. Simon has focused his career on bringing best-in-class PPE and technology solutions to the blue light sector. He's recently introduced LCO2 decontamination to the UK, helping remove toxins from firefighter PPE, a move that ties directly into the safer practices Luke Gazzard has been championing in Avon Fire and Rescue. Reducing exposure to contaminants is not just about day-to-day safety, it's about improving long-term health outcomes for firefighters. At this year's show, Simon and Tim will guide attendees through protective clothing in focus, requirements and challenges across firefighting sectors, exploring innovations, standards, and the real-world challenges facing firefighters and procurement teams today. From proper fit and materials to decontamination and long-term health considerations, this session promises practical insights that every service can take back to their teams.
The simple fact is PPE must fit the wearer for it to perform. Well fitted, fit for purpose, PPE does more than just protect, of course. It improves comfort, confidence, and even morale. And the session highlights the challenges and presents some of the potential solutions.
And also, we're thinking about the context of the new British standard BS 30417 for the provision of inclusive PPE. So looking at some of that guidance and how that fits into the importance of the sizing process for everybody.
So moving on to the second element within the Protecting the Protector session, which is entitled How to Get What You Want and the Role of Specifications. So the specifications obviously must be included in a tender, and they'll be the start point for the selection of what is thought at that stage to be the most appropriate products. And this session examines what really should be included in that process.
We see a lot of difference in the level of information that's provided in specifications during the tender process and the difference between input or output specifications. So we'll be discussing how they can be used effectively and what sort of level of information need to be provided, particularly where you've got PPE standards that need to be referenced in there too.
And finally, the third of three sessions in Protecting the Protectors is product evaluation through the tender process. So again, PPE is vital. It saves lives, simple as that. And the panel will cover product selection and evaluation, often or through this often challenging tendering process.
Yeah, so we'll focus on how products can be evaluated, the different stages of the tender process, but also looking at the benefit and challenges of wearer trials and how effective it can be to get wearer feedback before contracts are awarded rather than finding something out at a later date. So we'll discuss all the key aspects of that through the process too.
This episode of the Emergency Services Times podcast is sponsored by MSA Safety, proudly supporting emergency services and first responders on the front line. At MSA Safety, protecting first responders isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We work closely with fire and rescue services across the UK to develop and deliver safety solutions designed to meet your ever-evolving needs. That includes MSA Bristol Firefighter PPE, trusted by services across the UK and beyond, shaped through years of collaboration with frontline teams. It also includes our growing investment in innovation and technology, from the connected M1 SCBA modular solution to our agile, fully managed service model that helps keep crews protected and ready to respond. But for us, safety goes beyond equipment. We believe in standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who dedicate their lives to protecting others, whether it's supporting firefighter charities, backing mental health initiatives, or showing up for community events. MSA is proud to be part of the emergency services family. To learn more about our work in the UK and how we're supporting first responders every step of the way, visit www.msasafety.com. With MSA Safety, when you go in, we go in with you.
Alan, I'll come to you first. The BSIF is a key partner for this event. What attracted you to collaborate with us at the Emergency Services Show? And how does this partnership help further your mission for higher safety standards across the industry?
BSIF actually have a long history of collaboration with the 19 Group events. And we've been a long-time central partner for the National Health and Safety event, again at the NEC. And we also support Maintech. So it's very much a natural collaboration as far as we see it. This will be the first time that we're a key partner at the Emergency Services Show. And we see the Protecting the Protectors sessions as a fantastic opportunity to be there on hand to facilitate, in our case, independent advice for visitors. And that's alongside the dozens of BSIF member companies who will also be exhibiting. On PPE generally, probably our main challenge, or the main challenge that we face and tackle, these are around the quality of products out there, with non-compliant and dangerous PPE being offered to unsuspecting wearers through often through the digital channels. And I think that the Protecting the Protector sessions reflect these issues and the opportunities to deal with the barriers to the provision of what is and should be the most suitable and adequate PPE, for wearers.
Natalie, you've highlighted that your panels are about specs and standards. With so much changing in PPE procurement and standards, what will your panels offer to help attendees make better, fairer and more inclusive kit decisions?
Well, this is really about educating the whole of the industry. So we're not just focused on the buyers or the suppliers in this stage. We're looking at everybody being involved in it, because it takes both parties to make sure that we're specifying the right product and then supplying the right product. There's obviously, with the British standard for the provision of inclusive PPE, there's a lot more discussion and education needed around what does that look like, how do you achieve it, and all of those sort of the nitty-gritty of how this is actually going to be able to be delivered. So the intention is that we really focus on educating people around what is going to be required in the future, how do they future-proof their tender processes in terms of specifying product that will be inclusive, and how you engage with wearers throughout the whole process. And that's a real key theme of the British standard, but it applies throughout the tender process as well, and how you can include those. So yeah, education really for buyers and suppliers we're aiming for.
And just finally, coming back to the BSIF, Alan, how are you influencing the development of PPE? And what are the current problems your members are trying to solve when it comes to the needs of the emergency services?
Well, frankly, all our members sit on something called special interest groups by product categories. So we will have head, eye and face, respiratory protection, hearing protection, safety clothing, all the way down to all the way down to safety footwear. We also have all of the test houses as members of BSIF, and we're constantly communicating with them, with the marketplace, to help people understand what is required, what the challenges are, and what we're doing about it. Interestingly, Caitlin, we've also just launched a membership for duty holders and employers. So we spend an awful lot of time communicating the issues to the marketplace in general. And now we're inviting people to join BSIF in a more formal process. And we don't charge for that. It just helps people to understand. We educate them about the issues. And it seems to be working very well so far. So perhaps a lot of the visitors to the Emergency Services Show, that will be relevant to.
Next, I'm joined by Amanda Coleman, who you may remember from her previous appearance on the podcast with Catherine, discussing crisis communications in the wake of the Heathrow disaster earlier this year. This time, we're talking about the nationwide emergency alert test which took place on the 7th of September, just after this episode was recorded, and the role of campaigns like 30 Days, 30 Ways UK in preparing the public. Amanda tells me what makes this kind of proactive, community-focused messaging effective, and the lessons emergency planners can take from it.
It's 2 sessions, but the first one, I think, which for me is probably the most important, is about communication, and what we need to do in terms of building resilience. So really important conversations I'm sure we're going to have around trust and collaboration, and how do we help people to be more prepared and ready before things happen.
You said there that the Building Resilience panel explores the UK's resilience in the face of complex threats. From your perspective, what role does clear and ethical communication play in strengthening our national capacity to respond?
Wow, it's everything. I would say that, but it really is, because what we've got to think about is how complex, challenging, uncertain, and chaotic the world is, and building trust happens way before anything happens. Maintaining that trust so that people will listen to you, I think, is now the big challenge. It's the big hurdle. The minute you appear to, or are perceived as acting unethically, or not explaining things, even when you have to withhold certain amounts of information, I think that starts to undo any good work. So there's a lot to unpick, I think, for that session, around what we need to do before things happen, and how we need to kind of flip communications on its head and start looking at what people are thinking, how they're feeling, and what they need, rather than what we need to tell them, which is often, when you're in an emergency response, is where we focus. What do we need to tell people? And we need to try and flip that on its head.
Yeah, definitely. With the upcoming nationwide emergency alert test, which is on the 7th of September, how important do you think campaigns like 30 Days, 30 Ways UK are in preparing the public? And what makes this kind of proactive, community-focused messaging effective?
I think it's a conversation that we don't have in the UK very often. The last time there was a test of the emergency warning system, just before it, I had a full conversation in the supermarket with one of the workers who was going, "We don't have such a crisis like that. We don't have emergencies. Why do we need this?" So I think there's a big learning curve, and so things like 30 days, whatever it is, the more we can do what a lot of countries do very well, and explain things to people and talk to them about it, not in a scary way, but in a these things do happen way, the better. So I think it will be interesting to see the response on the 7th of September, but I think there's a lot more work that I'm sure we can all do and build on, and the government have been trying to do that with the Prepare website and some of the work that's come out of that. But I think we've got quite a long way to go to make this a part of life and not a scary addition to things that people are concerned about.
And finally, what lessons do you think emergency planners should be looking to take from the emergency alert test?
Oh, well, I was going to say there's lots of things. The first thing is how many people actually receive it and how many people have decided to turn the notification off. Then what does that message, what's response does that message bring? Are people kind of comfortable? Is the information around it able to explain what they're doing? Or does it create concern? Because again, that's the sort of behaviour that's going to replicate, isn't it, when something happens? This is, I suppose, a soft test of how people feel towards dealing with emergencies and facing emergencies. So I think we've got a lot to take from that, and it'll be interesting to see the feedback from lots of different groups. And I think we've got to look across the whole range of it as well, because there's groups I know around domestic abuse, etc., where they would need it to be switched off. So again, I think we need to be thinking about those other people who won't get that message. And I think every time an emergency alert, an early warning's been used across the world, there's been a problem with it in recent months and the last sort of year. So I think there's a lot to learn from how that goes.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for all those insights today, and we will see those in-depth discussions at the show.
Absolutely.
Amanda will also be sharing her expertise at 2 key sessions at the Emergency Services Show: Communicating Resilience, Building Trust Through Preparedness, a panel hosted by the Emergency Planning Society exploring the critical role of communication in fostering trust, collaboration and empowerment. Topics include ethical messaging, reaching diverse audiences, public perception of CBRN threats, and shifting from fear-based messaging to transparent, preparedness-focused communication. And building resilience, strategy, capacity, and capability. A discussion on strengthening the UK's resilience against complex and evolving threats, drawing on real-world experience, emerging best practices, and the government's National Security Strategy and Resilience Action Plan. You can catch both of those sessions on day 2. These are just a few highlights of the Protecting the Protector stage. We've also got the College of Policing curating 3 sessions covering equipment effectiveness, officer wellbeing, and structured debriefing to drive future improvements in the light of last year's riots. Thanks to all my guests today, Luke, Natalie, Alan and Amanda, as well as the team at TechSport for sponsoring the Protecting the Protector stage this year. I'm excited for this year's Emergency Services Show, my first, and hope you'll be able to join us there. Make sure you check out the full programme at www.emergencyuk.com and register for your free ticket. In the next and final episode of this mini-series, our editor Catherine will be spotlighting services across the West Midlands, including an in-depth interview with their new Chief Fire Officer, Simon Tuhill, plus insight from 2 first-time show exhibitors, Eurox, who have over 30 years of experience in the PPE market, plus the Worcestershire Medal Service, responsible for making the Elizabeth emblem, a new medal recognising emergency workers who have died in the line of duty. Thanks again to MSA for sponsoring the podcast, and to Tom St. John for all his wizardry in editing our episodes together. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tune in next time for more show previews.